and thank you so much for joining us today on episode 4 of Jimmy's Decorative Moment. Can you believe it's episode 4 already? I always like to begin every episode by thanking our sponsors and supporters. So first of all, I'd like to thank Glenn and Janice Williams of the Rosendale Arts Alliance and the BNN television program, It's All About Arts. Thank you so much for all of your support. This show would not be possible without you. I'd also like to thank Simone Williamson of Be Our Guest Party Rental for always supplying our furniture and decor for us to sit on and enjoy our experience during the filming of the show. Today we have a really special guest on the show and a really special episode for you. It's our first time having just one person on the show, but it's a person who defines greatness and fabulosity in our industry, and I thought it would be very appropriate to have her on the show to explain who she is, how she started her company, how she became who she is, and I know it would be a treat for a lot of the viewers to kind of learn from her and her experiences. So without much further ado, I'd like to introduce Binita Patel of Binita Patel Photography, as well as Studio B Photography. Binita, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Jimmy. It's an honor just to be here. What else can I say?
No, well, you know what? I met you a few years ago, and it was love at first sight. You know, we met at a party, a networking event in the South End, and I think we just clicked. And ever since then, we've been friends, and we've been colleagues, and we've done so many projects together, and it's always been a pleasure and a treat. And just watching you grow, and myself feeling like evolving with you. It really, furthermore, Binita, when I started my company, you were my biggest supporter when I first started. Like, I remember our lunch at Cafeteria on Newbury Street.
Yeah.
And I remember your post. So I can't wait to get into our conversation, talk about, you know, your social media expertise and all of that. But I remember you posting A Star Is Born, and it was a selfie with the two of us. And that has stayed with me ever since. So often I think of that photograph, and it just has given me strength and encouragement. And for so many people in the events industry, you give so much encouragement to. So let's get started with the first question, which I like to ask all of our guests. When you hear the phrase decorative moment, what does that mean to you?
Well, I think that as a photographer, I'm privy to so many decorative moments in people's lives. When you stop to take a selfie with a good friend, or whether it be something as simple as that, or celebrating your wedding or a special occasion, those moments where you want to stop and just kind of remember it, no matter how simple or fabulous that moment is. To me, that's a decorative moment. So decorative moments happen every single day, I think. I mean, when you're with your best friend and you're having lunch, you're like, hey, you know what, let's take our selfie today and post it on Instagram or what have you, or something even as special as your wedding. So decorative moments, I think, are really just moments we want to remember, moments we want to capture, and things that we tell ourselves, you know what, I don't want to forget that this happened, no matter how big or small.
How did you start your company?
So
tell me, you have two companies.
I do.
Okay.
I have two companies. So it all started with Binita Patel Photography. And this kind of started back in 2009, which is kind of like when I would say the beginnings sort of started unearthing themselves to a certain extent. So my daughter, Anya, who you know, was born in 2009. And it's, I'm self-made. I didn't go to photography school. I don't have a professional photography degree. In fact, my degree is in business, finance, and marketing.
Is that what you were doing before starting?
Yeah. So before I started, I was working in corporate America. I was the director of marketing for an IT company.
Oh wow! I didn't know that was your role. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I got out of college with a degree in finance and economics, thinking that I was going to be like this Wall Street trader or something like that. And that was kind of the path that I was on. I worked at Merrill Lynch in US Bancorp. So I was in financial services for a couple of years, and then made a switch over into marketing for a small IT company, during which time I got my master's in marketing, my MBA in marketing, and a master's in finance as well during that time.
A dual MBA?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So again, for me, the vision was always, I'm going to be a high-powered finance career woman. That's really what I thought I was going to be in my early 20s. When I was working that small IT company, it was a startup. That to me was an exciting period of my time, because I came on at a very young age as the director of marketing, and it really kind of gave me the opportunity to take something small and new and a company that the world really didn't know about, and kind of spearhead where that company was going from a marketing standpoint. And it was that endeavor that kind of, I think, intrigued me and excited me about wanting to get that MBA in marketing. And,
The reason I'm smiling so much is because I think of your marketing prowess is so powerful, and you're so savvy. And to think that when you became the director of marketing for this company, that's where you really honed that inner craft.
Right, right. So
And
it was a completely different industry, albeit, but I think that was an opportunity that I really cherish now at this point. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
I took that path into photography through finance and through motherhood for a reason. So in any case, I went on to get my degree, my MBA in marketing during that time. And then what kind of happened simultaneously was as soon as I finished my degree, I had my daughter, Anya, and this was in 2009. And like any new mother, I was obsessed with my baby, obsessed, just taking pictures of her, posting them on Facebook when Facebook was really kind of the real only medium to share what was happening in our lives. Now we have Instagram and Pinterest and all these other sort of facets, but Facebook was it back then. It really was. And so I was taking pictures of her and do you remember back in like 2009, our camera phones weren't that savy.
no,
they
of
really
course not.
weren't.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and we couldn't like upload directly
no,
from the
you
phone.
can upload from
yeah,
your phone.
yeah,
It was like, I think I had a flip, or it was just, it wasn't what it is today. So like many people, I just had one of those tiny little Sony point and shoot cameras, where then you would like take the SD card out and you'd have to like upload it onto your computer and like all this stuff. And I remember complaining to my husband actually that, oh God, the baby fidgets so much. She's always like, babies, they flail, they fidget, they don't sit still. And all of my pictures were coming out blurry. So that kind of led to
Oh, wow, serious?
Yes,
Wow, okay.
yes. And I was just kind of like, ugh, like as a new mom, you want great pictures of your kid, especially when you're home, on maternity leave for a little while. It's like there's really honestly nothing else to do. And I just remember thinking, oh God, these pictures are not up to par. They're kind of disappointing. So that's what kind of led to the purchase of an SLR camera. And this was like early 2009, right after my daughter was born. And then I started just posting just those casual pictures that I was taking on the SLR of my daughter on Facebook. And then some of my girlfriends were also having kids at that time, and so I would go to their house and take pictures of their kids. And it kind of just became like this little thing that I started doing just amongst friends and family. And then lo and behold, just through Facebook, the power of Facebook, I was approached by this person I went to high school with. And her name was Brianne Hinckley. I think your last name is something different now because you're married. But Brianne Hinckley, and I will never forget Brianne because she reached out to me on Facebook and said, I've been seeing all these wonderful pictures that you're posting of your daughter.
Wow.
I have a 3-year-old. Will you take pictures of my daughter? And I was kind of like, almost like taken aback or stunned. I was like, this is really odd. Like, who would want me to take pictures of their kid? Like, this is so random. But I agreed to it. And, we met at the park one day, took some pictures of her daughter, and they came out half decent. And I eventually ended up doing Brianne's wedding. And that became my first wedding towards the fall of 2009. And I told Brianne, I distinctly remember, I had no idea what I was doing. I said, are you really sure you want me to do your wedding? Because I only kind of goof around on Facebook with my daughter and kids and this and that. I'm like, your wedding, that's a really big deal. Like, I don't want to screw it up.
Yeah, of course.
Of course not, right?
Yeah.
And she said, no, please. Like, we weren't really even going to have a photographer, so whatever you can do for us would be so appreciated. Lo and behold, I must have done a half-decent job. And that kind of just sparked like an interest inside of me. I said, wow, this was a really fun experience. It was a really great day. The client was happy. This is 2009, my first attempt. So let's take it for what it was.
Yeah.
But that just kind of, I think, kind of ignited a little spark inside of me. And I started to take photography just a little bit more seriously after that. And then I had a few other small weddings that I ended up doing early 2010. And then what actually ended up happening, which in retrospect was kind of like a godsend, honestly, is I got laid off. I was working at that IT company this whole time, but then I got laid off. And that was kind of the moment where I had to make a decision. And I had to decide, well, do I just go out and apply for another job?
Here you are with a young baby at home.
A young baby at home.
A husband.
She had just turned a year, a husband. This degree that I had earned so that I could be on this track, pursue this huge track that I thought I was going to be on. And then all of a sudden, early 2010, I'm at this crossroads.
Oh my God, I love this.
What do I do? I'm like, there's this photography thing. It really was just a thing at that point in time where, do I kind of go for that, or do I do what anybody would naturally do when they got laid off, which was start scrambling and trying to find another job? And something inside of me just said, give it a shot. Like, what's the worst that could happen? And to me, that was kind of what I kept telling myself was, what's the absolute worst that can happen? I give this a try for a couple of months, maybe even a year. If I'm an absolute failure, if people don't appreciate my work, if I'm not good at making connections, or if my photography just sucks, period, what's the absolute worst that can happen?
Well, and what was that worst?
I would
in
just
your mind?
go out and get another job. Like, that was
Period.
the worst case scenario. I'm like,
So many people have this
Yeah.
fear. I think for so many people to embark on that path of owning their own company and starting their own company, there's so many question marks that they're surrounded and flooded with. But it isn't until you make the leap or you have faith in yourself. I think what it is at its core is having faith and confidence in yourself that
Right.
you can do it. And I love that. I think that so many business owners are faced with that crossroad moment where they're like, I could just get another job, or I could start my own thing and see what happens,
Right.
And so I remember for myself personally, that's what happened. It was either I get another job or do my own thing, and I
what's
just,
the worst that could happen?
And what was the worst? Nothing. Just that I would have to
Nothing.
get another job.
That
but
you would just
but to
end
me,
up on the path that you were on to begin with.
but for me, it was so exciting and exhilarating that I could create my own future,
Right.
And so I love that crossroad moment for you. And so obviously you decided to start your own company and you never looked back.
And I never really looked back.
So how did you grow it? Like, I feel like, okay, you started it, you said, I'm gonna do my own thing.
Took that leap of faith.
So what happens? What's next?
So I know, right? And that's again, there's not a science behind it. There's not like a do
But
this.
you were marketing proficient because A, you had
Yes.
studied it, and B, you had executed.
And I think it's in my blood.
And it's in your blood.
I do think it's in my blood, and I think that part of the reason that I pursued it academically was I had an interest in it. There was something about marketing that I wanted to kind of deconstruct what I already
And it
kind
spoke
of
to
knew.
you.
Like things that you know intuitively, but I wanted to understand the methodology behind some of those things. So I think that's what pushed me to get the degree.
Okay. So how did Binita Patel Photography grow?
Right.
Like what were the seeds that you planted that allowed it to flourish?
So now we're looking. This is early 2010 now
Right,
at this
okay,
point.
okay.
And as we continue the journey, I literally said to myself, "Well, I don't know how to start getting business. If I want to take this seriously, where do I start? Who do I contact? Who do I call?" And I didn't have that privilege of previous industry experience. I was coming in from a completely different industry, absolutely blind as to what to expect or just basic knowledge that I should have. But you always hear about bridal shows. So I said to myself, well, what the heck? I'm going to give this a solid effort for a full year. I'm going to give this everything I have, blood, sweat, and tears. And I'm going to do everything that I possibly can. And if in a year I'm not where I want to be, I'll just go back and get another job. Like that was really worst case scenario. So early spring 2010, I signed up for a bridal show at the Taj Hotel.
That was your first?
That was my first bridal
And
show.
so for our audiences, I just want to mention that Binita and I love the Taj
Absolutely
Hotel.
adore.
We love working there. We love doing projects there. We love the team there. And how symbolic that was your first bridal show.
Right.
Was at the Taj. Yeah.
So I paid the money. I signed up for the table, and I said, "Ugh, I don't even know what I'm doing." And if I still have the albums that I produced to put out on the table, which at this point I look back and I'm like, who on earth would have taken me seriously through these albums? But there was a lovely couple that actually did, and their wedding was later on that year in 2010 at the Taj Hotel itself. So we met at the Taj. They booked. And my first sort of, I guess, professional wedding on my own under the label of Binita Patel Photography was at the Taj Hotel.
That's so interesting because my first wedding that I booked was at the Taj Hotel.
Isn't it funny? And you'll never forget that.
You never forget it.
You'll never
You
forget
never
that.
forget it.
You won't. I mean, there are so many wonderful hotels and museums and institutions in this city, but we'll never forget where we started. And those places will always have a special place in our heart. So, and then after that, that was kind of it. It became kind of like this snowball effect and this self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe in yourself, if you put in the hard work, and if you just tell yourself, you know what, there really is no other way.
There is no other way. And that's what happens. It's like, once you start your own thing, it's like you can't stop it. It's like a roller coaster that just
It
you're
is.
going and going and going and going, and you just run with it and you do it, and then just one thing leads to another, and then the hardest part, I think, is just deciding where you want that story to lead or how you want that story to unfurl. It's like, so many people think the hardest part of having your own company is getting business, but really, that's
It's
almost
a personal journey.
It's a personal journey. It's
It
very
really
much,
is.
yeah, yeah.
And and I know you and I often talk about, well, okay, well, a year from now, here are some of the goals that we want to try to achieve personally, professionally, what have you. Professionally, of course, I have goals of, okay, well, a year from now, I'd like to see X, Y, and Z happen. But I also feel like that goal it's a moving goal. It's a moving target. As you grow as an artist, as you grow as a professional, as you become more aware of what this industry has to offer, the goal and the end point, it does continue to kind of move and sort of mold itself into a different shape and form.
So, Binita, you're very involved in our industry, socially, professionally, but tell me about your social involvement in the industry, like with organizations like NACE and everything else that you do to kind of market Binita Patel photography, and then we'll talk about Studio B photographers too, but like just how do you do that? Why does it matter? Why is it important? But tell me about your involvement.
I think that being and making myself visible to our industry and to our community, there's absolutely no amount of marketing collateral that's a replacement for that. Putting in the FaceTime, making those handshakes, giving those hugs to real people in our industry, behind the hotels, behind the floral companies, behind the catering companies, that's the human connection. And that's why I love networking so much, because it's true.
I love it too.
There's and we live in a world of cell phones and emails, and I'll text you this, and online invites and Eventbrite and all this stuff, and that's all well and good, and that's a part of our world. We can't change it, but I feel that networking through organizations like NACE or the Museum of Fine Arts Fashion Council, or the Center for the Arts. Things like that, those human connections, that's where I think you really create opportunities where people will remember you. Because let's face it, we all make buying decisions and decisions to work with people, not based on what we see on their website necessarily, or how good the contract looks, or even what the price point is, to be honest with you. Ultimately, it's a gut feeling that I want to work with this person. And that's why I network. And I think that's a lesson that I learned very early on.
And I couldn't agree with you more. It's like, I feel like I built my business on networking. Like, I don't think any of my clients have gone on my website.
Right.
Or for any of my weddings. It's
Right.
mainly been from word of mouth and referral, or just networking, really. So it's,
and networking has so many different forms. It doesn't even have to necessarily be in that formal, organization. Of course, that's kind of an easy way in to start networking. But networking to me is really just even one-on-one and saying, hey, you know what? I like you as a person. I like what you do. I like what you have to offer. Let's have a cup of coffee. I'd love to learn more.
Vivian, so where is Binita Patel Photography going? Like, what is next? Okay, so you did start a side brand.
Yes.
Studio B. What is Studio B Photographers? What is that? Like,
so.
And why did you start it?
Why did I start it? Oh gosh, it's kind of a long-winded story, but.
Well, don't make it too long, because we only have a few seconds.
I know. We're on a time crunch here. Long story short, though, is as Binita Patel, I'm an individual artist. And I can only be in so many places at once. So there was part of me that always kind of knew that there's so many opportunities out there in the marketplace at many different levels. Whether it be a small birthday party that's being held at a restaurant, or an intimate wedding, even being held at one of the biggest hotels in the city. There's decorative moments that are happening at every level, big and small. And I can't be at them all, and not all of them make sense for me to be at either. But that's really what kind of, I think, inspired the roots of Studio B Photographers. So Studio B Photographers is...
I love your team so much.
Thank you.
They're so sweet.
It's my associate team, and we have a bunch of great photographers that work with me.
It's Katie, David.
Janice Sell, Francesca, Amy.
Yeah.
We've got an awesome team.
I love them.
And our focus through Studio B is really to kind of engage with people, whether their event is big or small, to capture their decorative moment that they're having.
Yeah, you know what, Benita, and they're great because when I started my company, so many of the photo shoots I did were Studio B photographed.
Right.
And that's how I got to know Jana Sell and Katie and like,
Yeah.
just great. And but I love how you've used Studio B photographers to kind of spread your love of capturing decorative moments and things like that.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So Studio B allows me and, you know, just even some of the hotels and restaurants that I work with, will call sometimes and say, hey, you know, we've got a small wedding, a 40-person wedding on a Thursday night. Now, maybe I can or cannot be there, but hopefully somebody from my company can.
So what inspires you?
What
Like what,
inspires
like
me?
what, where, like when you're about to embark on a project or photograph a moment or just engage in a new marketing strategy, like what is burning that fire? What's lighting that fire? What's inspiring you?
I know that when I approach time with a couple, whether it be during their engagement shoot or on their wedding day, what inspires me is kind of that vision that I have for them of how I want to document them as a couple. Every couple has their own story. Some couples are fun and outgoing. Some are sort of more introverted and quirky. You know, and there's the entire spectrum. So my goal with every couple that I work with is how do I bring out what you two awesome people have together? You know, you found each other, you connected, you've decided to embark on this journey together for a reason. And it's my job to bring that out through photography. It's not just about, hey, can you stand here and kind of do a typical pose that any photographer could really produce. I want to get to know you. I want to walk down the streets and have you engage together in a way that you would normally, so that I can capture that laugh out loud moment. Or if you're a quieter couple, I want to get the intimacy between you. So that's really what inspires me, is documenting authenticity.
I love that. Oh, that's such a good answer. I love that. Documenting authenticity. That's really nice. I love that. So, because your life is so busy. You know, now you have a 9-year-old daughter, who, like that 1-year-old daughter has turned 9.
Yes.
And, you know, you're so busy. You have 2 companies now. And so, like, how do you access that place where you, like, can think about that couple? Like, is it, like, while you're driving? Is it when, like, do you have to be totally isolated? Or can you kind of access that emotion, that feeling, that inspiration source? Like, how do you, like, get to that moment? Like...
I do spend a lot of time in my car driving. So it is, you know, that's definitely part of it. But I think for me, it's that initial consultation or meeting or engagement with the couple. I love to make sure that I meet people before, you know, we sign them or book them, especially if they're going to work with me directly.
Your work is really beautiful, Binita. I love your headshot work is exquisite. Your portraiture work, like some of the best photographs of me have been taken by you.
And that's the authentic Jimmy.
And I love
and
them.
that's what I want to bring out, even whether it be a headshot or
a moment.
the
Like
wedding
it's,
day.
but you know, it's like your work of the work that I've done at the MFA that you photographed is so exquisite. You know, and people comment, it's so beautiful, and like your room shots are beautiful. Like but your images of people as themselves, laughing or giggling or just having a moment, are some of the most exquisite, beautiful images I've ever seen. Like they're so fabulous, you know. So I want to applaud you for that, obviously. And I love our work together, and I love how we collaborate, and I love how we strategize. And I think that marketing is our first crafts, or my first craft at least. And it's like, and it is a craft that needs to be wielded and honed and always worked on to perfect it, you know. But I think that it's a very powerful tool to grow a business, excite a business, and get people interested, you know?
Well, I think what has connected us, the two of us, so closely is that we both believe in authenticity. It's not just another wedding. It's not just another couple.
Yes,
it's
I
not
agree.
just another headshot. I mean, if you
It's an opportunity to capture or create.
It's an opportunity to connect with a human being, to understand who they are, and to bring that out, for me, in a photograph, and for you visually through how you represent the event.
For me, it's like an opportunity to create a decorative moment. For you, it's an opportunity to capture one. And I think that's really exhilarating. And I love when we work together, and I love when we work with Chris Lincoln, and my personal decor partner, you know, for all lighting and AV needs. And like, it's just, I love when the team comes together and we all work together. So
it is.
like,
It's always the best. It is.
Well, yeah, I think that, I mean, we're wrapping up now. So I just want to take the last few moments to, you know, do you have any advice you'd like to give viewers, just if they're starting their own company or if they're interested in photography or any type of...
Well, I always say to everybody, just even non-professional photographers, we all have our iPhones or our little gadgets now. And even when I go on vacation, I kind of shy away from bringing my big, equipment. To me, it's just about capturing the moment. So, my family and I, we went to Paris last summer, and I didn't bring my big fancy camera. I just had my iPhone. But for me, it was more important to make sure that I documented the moments that were happening throughout the trip, rather than making sure that they were shot perfectly with, with all that fancy equipment. So just don't take the moments for granted. I mean, life flies by, and for me, I always think that photos are just one amazing way for us to remember, what we've created.
I love that. You're known for your photos, you're known for selfies, you're known for everything, but I think you're known really for just
living in the moment.
Living in the moment.
We have to.
Yeah, and your charisma and your charm and your fabulosity and being Binita. When people know you're walking into a room, everyone's like, oh, Benita's here. Or where's Binita? If people know you're there. It's like Binita Patel, Benita Patel. So, and on a final note, I'd like to thank you, our viewers, all the ladies and gentlemen watching at home. Thank you so much for tuning in to the 4th episode of Jimmy's Decorative Moments. I always like to end the show with a little note, just kind of urging you all, whether, irrespective of your occupation, your way of being, whatever you're doing on your daily life, you have an opportunity to style yourself, the environment around you, your home, or even a private event that you're having in such a way that can create a decorative moment and nourish your day-to-day experiences. So thank you again to Janice and Glenn Williams of the Rosendale Arts Alliance, Simone Williamson of Be Our Guest Party Rental for all of the furnishings, and Chris Lincoln of Boston Lighting for all of your support and technical advice.